Welcome to this episode of The Recovery Room. This is a special one, the first in a series that we're calling SongTalk, where we explore affair healing themes through the lyrics of original songs. In these episodes, you'll hear parts of the song as we talk about it, and then the full version at the end. The song we're discussing today is titled This Healing Place. And if you've listened to other episodes, it may sound familiar. It's the theme song for the Recovery Room podcast. Let me explain a little bit about how SongTalk came to be. Years ago, I was a singer-songwriter. But after my own affair, over 25 years ago, I stopped writing music. I stayed involved with musical theater for a while, but I set down the guitar and I walked away from songwriting. Then, last year, something changed. I discovered online tools, some powered by AI, that inspired me to make music again. The old creative spark came back to life, and I started writing lyrics and producing songs, many of them drawn from my own experience and the work I do in affair recovery.
Your road has not been easy. The center line would fade. Some tragedies were blind sides, some were mistakes you made. Now walk into the valley and take up your sword.
In these SongTalk episodes, I sit down with friends and colleagues to reflect on the meaning behind each song. My hope is that you'll find them thoughtful, honest, encouraging, and maybe even a little inspiring. For this conversation about This Healing Place, I invited Suzanne Janke to join me. Suzanne is a friend and a colleague. She's a licensed clinical social worker and a certified EMDR therapist who specializes in trauma recovery. Her practice is based in Indiana, and if you're in the area and looking for a great therapist, I highly recommend her. You'll find a link to her website in the show notes. If you'd like to download a full version of This Healing Place, go to the podcast page on our website and you'll see the download there. The link is provided in the show notes. Now, let's talk about the song.
Welcome to The Recovery Room, a podcast presented by affairhealing.com.
In this healing place, in this healing place.
This song, of course, plays in my head, and I've listened to it a lot in all its versions of creating it, but don't always get feedback from other people that have listened to it, other than maybe a thumbs up or a thumbs down. But I sent it to you. You listened to it a few times. I'm just wondering if you had any initial impressions, questions, thoughts to get us started on this.
You know, the first thing that comes to mind is we sat here a moment ago and listened. And I was struck as I'm sitting here with you about the vulnerability that it takes to, anytime I've done something creative, it takes a certain amount of, I don't want to embarrass you, but courage and vulnerability to put that out there and then to share it with somebody and then ask them to give you impressions and questions. So I was really just noticing that as I was listening to this song.
Come as you are, bring pieces you've saved. Fragments of you, so broken, so brave. We'll sit with the sorrow, release all the shame, restoring what's shattered, reclaiming your name.
I don't know if we've talked about this, but music used to be a pretty significant part of my life. Before my affair, and if you're listening to this podcast, my story's out there, I'm very open about it, but that was 25 years ago. Before that, I was very involved in music writing, performing, going places and singing, doing all that sort of thing. I kind of lost all of that. It just, lost that creative juice or the desire. I mean, I think music was tied up so much in my past that there was a certain maybe shame attached to it. I don't know, but until some years later, I got involved a little bit in music theater. Some of that I used, but that part of me that would write, and it seemed to be gone. And I was, sometimes I would feel like I wanted to do it again, but I would just let that pass. And it wasn't until last year, realizing that some of the online tools are becoming available that allowed me to take things I'd written, and the internet could act as like a producer and even vocalist and all those things. And I can start to shape a song the way I wanted to without having to hire all those people to do it. And so I started playing with it, and, it just sparked that creative writing again. And I started writing lyrics, and I'm still tapped into that, kind of excited to see what comes out. But, it is my stuff, and there is some vulnerability to saying, hey, here it is. I appreciate recognizing that it costs a little bit to do that.
Well, and even hearing you walk me a little bit through that journey, and not to come full circle too quickly here, but I hear healing in that. And with vulnerability often accompanies healing, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, it has been healing in its own way. What's interesting, and I really didn't think about this until yesterday when I was thinking about this song and about us talking about it. And I made this connection to something that happened when I was in my 20s, just beginning career. And, in your 20s, what do you really know about life? But in the organization I was working in, we were going through this process of figuring out the mission statement for our organization. And as part of that, all the leadership were challenged to do personal life missions and to define what that was. So I went through the whole process. And the statement that I came out with that was my life mission, me in my 20s, way before I ever became a counselor, doing what I'm doing now.
I cannot wait to hear.
This was my mission statement: to creatively communicate a message of healing and hope to wounded people. Where did that come from? In a 20-year-old kid that barely even understands what that means. This is the song of the title of the song is The Healing Place. This is the creative expression of healing and hope to wounded people.
In this healing place, there's room to feel, to breathe through the hurt, believe wounds can heal. Faith over failure, hope over pain, finding the courage to love once again.
That's really interesting, because as I was taking a few notes, and I didn't want to overthink it, but I did take a few notes just to organize what my impressions were so I wouldn't forget. And one of the lines that stuck out to me, come as you are, bring pieces you've saved, fragments of you so broken and brave. We'll sit with the sorrow, release all the shame, restoring what's shattered, reclaiming your name. So what presented itself to me in that moment as a therapist, oftentimes I find myself noticing, and you even mentioned earlier, different parts of yourself, right? And so the pieces of you, right? The restoring what's shattered, that shows up so much in the healing process, in my experience, in my own life, and just having the privilege of walking along others who are going through that journey. And, oftentimes that involves the past, the present, even the future projection of self, right?
Yeah.
And so hearing you, so first, I did not expect that to be your mission at that age. Hearing this part of you from your 20s, already reaching out to connect to this part of you that was going to have such a different understanding with so much more depth, probably, at the time that you wrote this song. That's really fascinating to me.
Well, and the phrase one of the phrases in what you read, we'll sit with the sorrow, release all the shame. I can guarantee you that 20-year-old version of me really didn't understand what the depth of sorrow and shame could be. But I've witnessed both and I've felt both. When clients come in having experienced the deep hurt and wounds, especially as the work I do is with infidelity. Those are two big things that show up: pain, sorrow, and shame, especially for the person who's failed, person who's strayed, person who's broken promises. And if you don't learn how to navigate through those things and not become held and victimized by them for forever, healing is always going to elude you. I should also say that for me, the healing place can be, like you, can be in our sessions, as we meet with people. It can be, for me, it's the resources I provide in affairhealing.com. That's, for some people, healing place. I may never talk to them or interact with them, but I want that to be a place of healing for them. And for others, it might even be this Recovery Room podcast. I want all those to be a source of healing. And they don't have to come fixed. In fact, they are broken. And for many who have been wounded, their sense of hopelessness, or at least confusion. What do you think of? What you made reference to that, the pieces and the fragments of you. How does that strike you and the clients you see?
Oftentimes, it strikes me as protective. When I heard you referencing that creative part of yourself at one point went away,
Yeah.
or at least you couldn't access him.
Mm-hmm.
What I was envisioning was taking some refuge, stepping away. It's not a time, it doesn't feel like a time for me to be vulnerable right now. And that maybe another part of you needed to step in at that moment and protect whatever that was.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be helpful and sometimes not so helpful, but those different parts. And in much of the time, it seems to me that we have different parts that emerge out of necessity, and it's an amazing mechanism that we all seem to have to be able to bring forth what's needed in the moment. And some parts of us seem to be protective of other parts. And as we move through life, maybe the burdens that those parts carry become less helpful. And at some point, it sounds like you were able to, again, access that part that.
Yeah, but look how many years it took to kind of get there, I mean, that's even surprising to me, I think, a little bit. And I've done a lot of work on healing and so forth, and yet it took, 20 plus years to kind of come back to this thing that's always been an important part of me.
I was curious, how old were you when you wrote this song?
This was just last year.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the songs that I've written last year and this year, the lyrics are brand new. A lot of them are references to experiences from many years ago, but I'm just writing the lyrics now. There's only one song, I think, that I actually grabbed from probably 35 years ago and remixed it, a new version. But no, these are all newer ones for me.
Yeah.
I visited a friend yesterday that I hadn't seen in 20 years, and he said, "Well, bring your guitar with you." I said, I haven't played that thing in a long time. The strings aren't even good. He said, "Well, go buy some new strings and bring it with you." Well, I didn't, but maybe someday I'll pick that up too and add it to the creativity.
Yeah.
Again.
One thing at a time, right? Wow. Well, I don't know the answer, and you're not really asking me, but, why 20 years or, look how long it took. That's your story. Mm-hmm. And, when I listen to this song, when you even acknowledge that we'll sit with the sorrow, release all the shame, whether it was worth it or not is not what we're addressing here, right? Mm-hmm. But there is a well of experience that you've had that brings probably a depth that without that experience, you might not be able to fully be able to understand when you're working with somebody or writing a song.
Yeah, so we've given an example in my life of how healing has brought back a eventually when I was ready for it, something that I was passionate. It's part of me. I was passionate about music and stuff before, and I'm finding a place for it again. Healing can take us to a new place. It can be a really powerful, positive thing in our life. Some things can happen relatively quickly. Other things may take years before we realize them in our life. It's just that willingness to come, be vulnerable, take the risk to heal, instead of playing that, well, I'm just going to play it safe now because I never want to go through something like this again. In fact, I think when I wrote near the end of the song, well, I guess it's in every chorus, finding the courage to love once again, I don't mean by that when infidelity or an affair hits a relationship or a marriage, that outcome needs to be, well, they're going to find a way to love each other again. I just mean finding a way to love, whether it's in that relationship or somewhere else, rather than, oh, I'm never going to be hurt like this again, so I'm just going to close that part off of me because that's a lot safer. And in a way it is. But when we aren't willing to come and sit and be vulnerable and give time and allow the healing to happen, we lose something in that too. We lose intimacy. We lose connection. It's safer. But I think the cost is too high. I always want to encourage people towards risk again, vulnerability in some way, not in a foolish, stupid way, be wise, be smart, but healing will take you to a place of realizing, no, I can open up again. I can take that risk again.
I have a question that I'm so curious about. I was kind of excited to see a couple of words in here because I have an ongoing relationship with these words and questions. And that would be the step before the courage to love once again, which is faith over failure and hope over pain.
Faith over failure, hope over pain.
And you knowing me, you probably know I have some questions.
Well, we both come out of highly religious backgrounds. And so I think for a lot of people when they hear faith, that takes on that religious connotation. And frankly, for a lot of clients, that is an important part of their recovery and their healing. If that's real in their life, they're able to kind of latch onto forgiveness a little bit easier and so forth. But I don't mean faith in the religious sense. I mean faith in the terms of that belief, sometimes against evidence, that there can be something that we can hope for and some good that can come out of this. Because so many times all we can see is the destruction and the failure and the devastation and so forth. Nothing negates that, but the hope that this doesn't define the rest of my life, the hope that I will, like many others, be able to find a way out of this and be okay on the other side of that. And maybe even there'll be parts of me that learn and grow that I'll be thankful for. I'll never be thankful for this thing, for what happened, but the possibility of who I can become and what my life can be.
So in some ways, maybe hope as a vehicle toward a vision of what things can be.
Yes.
Which I appreciate. Empty hope scares me. Mm-hmm. Hope just for hope.
Yeah.
But that lands with me.
Well, how I see it show up, especially with couples, for example. I know for a while this couple's really going to struggle in their relationship together because one's not going to trust the other. The one who has broken trust is looking forward to being able to put this behind them as quickly as possible. Can't we just move on? I want something better for us. I don't like to see you in pain. Of course, that taps into all their shame and recognizing I caused this to happen to you. And so they can flounder. Like, how do we even move forward? Whether the one is going to forgive the other, whether the one that broke the trust is going to step up, take responsibility, and really demonstrate, I want to be part of your healing. I want to show you that I want to earn your trust back again. Those things don't happen immediately. But when they can begin to say to each other, I know that's part of my healing, and I want to bring that to this relationship. When the one who's been hurt can say honestly, I don't forgive you yet. And really, I'm struggling with how I ever can. This is a big thing. But I know that's important for me to figure that out and get to that place. that's a statement of hope. It's not just sitting there going, well, I don't forgive you, and you can just wonder if I ever will. I mean, there's no hope there. It's like, let's just see what happens. But I think there are little ways that they begin to speak and act with hope. Like, okay, there can be something better based on what's really happening and based on the vision, as you said, that they both have for individual healing or for relationship healing if they choose to do that.
Hope in being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a vulnerability
Always.
in that statement that you just made, if somebody were to be able to say that.
Oh, yeah. And that's the challenge for everyone.
Yeah.
Am I going to risk being vulnerable? I mean, especially with a person whose trust has been violated and broken. Why should I risk again? Well, you don't have to. And maybe that's the point where you relieve the relationship. But if you want to, whether restore this relationship again or learn to love again, you're going to have to take risks. You're going to have to step into vulnerability. And the person that, had an affair, for them to acknowledge what they've done, to be willing to look past just the actions they took, but to do the work of trying to figure out, what do I need to learn about myself that allows me to not only come back and say, I'm sorry for what I did, but there are things I need to learn to love you better. All that's really risky stuff to say and do and even think about, but it's important. And again, when I see people beginning to voice the longing to get there, and I want to do the work that helps me, that's the hope. Okay. When you hear that from a partner, all right, I'm not just sitting here wondering, is anything going to change? I'm with someone that wants to figure it out with me, and it's messy and it's confusing, and we'll stumble and we'll disappoint each other, but we're committed to keep moving forward.
I'm just curious about reclaiming your name. I was curious about what that means to you.
Restoring what's shattered, reclaiming your name.
The name's kind of a metaphor for a person's identity. What I did not mean by this is that, if you're married and you've got your husband's last name, then you're going to keep it. That's what your healing is. I don't mean that at all.
Knowing you, I did not expect that that's what that meant.
No, I think just the name is the metaphor for, this is my identity, this is who I am. And then when something like this happens in our life, we can question a lot of that. Who am I really? What value do I have? I've had many clients who don't know where they fit anymore. They don't have a sense of value, especially if they've been hurt or betrayed. Like, do I not matter? What's wrong with me? They had a perspective of a future that was well laid out in front of them, and now that's gone. And they're just lost. And sometimes, again, it's that hopelessness of like, I don't even know what story I'm telling with my life. So along with the faith and the hope, I find me again. I reclaim my name. Whether that person stays in a marriage or relationship or whether they're moving on their own with that sense of purpose and identity, that's secondary to what the healing looks like for them.
When I listened to this song the first time, I just thought I would just sit down. What words come to mind? So the words that came to mind when I first listened, validation of sadness. That was the first phrase that came to mind. I don't know if sadness was necessarily what you're intending.
No, it's there. Sure.
Yeah, it's just there's some power in the validation of the sadness that can even underlie something like anger, right?
This is a heartache that hollows your soul, making you doubt you'll ever be whole.
I heard tenderness, compassion. I heard a mindful quality. Will sit with the sorrow. That made me curious about not knowing anything about how creating an AI assisted song works. How much information do you provide for AI? Do you put words like that in? I'd like for there to be a composition, a sound that suggests tenderness, or
yes, definitely. The process is me. Here are the lyrics that I've written, and then I can even break down specific instructions for different sections of the song. I'd like this to be some harmonies come in, or drop out, but it'd be a cappella, or certain instruments I'd like to play. I mean, and the tools are becoming better and better. I think when I first started doing this, it was a little bit iffy of what you would get out. And now you'll be able to be much more specific and most of the time get something of what you want. And even be specific of the style of song and what you want the voices to sound like, whether it's male or female, whether it's one or more voices, and kind of the emotion that's behind it. So yeah, you can direct, to get something to a phrase of a song to try to get it to sound like the meaning that's behind it.
And so talk to me about your choice to go with a female voice.
Yeah, because the first version of this was a male voice, and I tried out different styles. Some of them had male voice, some with female. What attracted me to the male voice is it was reflected more of my message, I'm presenting places that I want to be healing for people.
In this healing place, there's room to feel. So breathe through the hurt, believe wounds can heal. Faith over failure, hope over pain, finding the courage to love once again.
But I tried both, and I don't know, it was just this particular version. I think I tried this with a male sound in it. There was just a sadness, compassion, empathy, hope. Felt like it came through much more in this female voice than anything else I'd done. And the more I listened to it, the more it stuck and felt right to me.
There was something to the voice. I appreciated the voice too. So I was just curious about that.
The last verse, we've talked about it, but it is just as acknowledgement what a significant wound an experience like this is for someone. When it says this is a heartache that hollows your soul, making you doubt if you'll ever be whole. I mean, maybe not in those words, but I've heard that expressed many, many times. People feel like they're undone, and people wonder, can I ever get back together again? And I just put those last two words of that verse in because I want people to hear, listen, it feels like no one has ever been through this before, even though logically that's not true, but emotionally it feels like, no one understands this. But to say, listen, there are plenty of people that if they could come into this room would stand around, listen to your story, and they would remember the pain and the sorrow of that. And they would be able to say to you, we know what that feels like. And they're not in this place now, but they remember wondering if they could ever get out of it. And that's why I put in others have come here much the same way, in that sense of brokenness and questioning and sometimes hopelessness. But it opened doors for a new, brighter day. And I don't mean that to be this, there's rainbows and everything on the other side of this. You come to this dark place and here, let me open this door and look at all the wonderful things. It's, it takes a lot. Sometimes we have to push that door open and it slams shut. And sometimes it opens up into a dark hallway. You have to go down to another door and open up. But eventually that hope that, okay, there is healing here and there is good on the other side. And there is something to my story that is going to be good when I get through all of this, and there are people around that are witnesses that that's possible.
But others have come here much the same way, opening doors to a new, brighter day. In this
I think about even beyond the more specific type of work that you're doing, I even just think of depression and how convincing depression is that I can't even remember what it was like to feel joy. Yeah. So to see that's the hope, right? Yep. The brighter day, you won't always feel this way.
Yeah. I think that's why Many times we're attracted to people who have been through something similar to our experience and have come out the other side. And why there's so many therapists that are therapists, because they've had to do their own battle against, in my case, it's been infidelity. For others, it is anxiety, depression, or addictions, or whatever. People who have been through that and come through and have experienced healing. We want to share that with others, to give them hope and to help give them tools that have been helpful to us or other things we've learned along the way. We want to create the healing places for people to come to and be able to go out and face that new, brighter day, whatever it is for them.
Yeah. Well, the song certainly takes the journey, right? Of validating all those places through that lens of tenderness and compassion, and providing that safe sandbox, really, to be able to work it out so that when they go out into the real world in between therapeutic sessions or beyond therapeutic sessions, they can begin to live out that brighter day.
Well, let's end by just playing the whole song.
Sounds good.
Come as you are, bring pieces you've saved. Fragments of you, so broken, so brave. We'll sit with the sorrow, release all the shame, restoring what's shattered, reclaiming your name. In this healing place, there's room to feel, to breathe through the hurt, believe wounds can heal. Faith over failure, hope over pain, finding the courage to love once again. It's okay to stumble and question the path. Feel the pain of the loss, but not let it last. There's strength in the waiting, grace in the fall. We're building back bridges and breaking down walls. In this healing place, there's room to feel, to breathe through the hurt, believe wounds can heal. Faith over failure, hope over pain, finding the courage to love once again. This is a heartache that hollows your soul, making you doubt you'll ever be whole. But others have come here much the same way, opening doors to a new, brighter day. In this healing place, there's room to feel, room to feel. To breathe through the hurt,